Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode. My name is Hiba, and on the other mic is my husband and co-host Zaid.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Welcome back after Ramadan. We hope you guys had a great Ramadan. We have special guests with us today, Lama Aboubakr, relationship coach. Thank you, Lama, for joining us.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So in the beginning, can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what led you to do that?
Yeah, so I help Muslims get married, and I help Muslims get into the mindset of how to approach this process in a very easy, efficient way.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason what got me here is when I was going through this process alone, by myself, I realized there was a lot of things that would trigger me, a lot of things that would bother me, and I wanted to become someone where it wasn't that hard. I just wanted it to be easy. And so I hired a coach. I helped myself really understand myself and understand my own triggers. And I realized the more I improved myself, the better quality potentials that I got, because the way I talked, the way I approached things was very different. And so I realized the Muslim community doesn't know this. And so that's what I'm helping mostly women and men do, is to really step up their whole identity and to see themselves as a catch, as someone who would be an excellent spouse, so that they can attract an excellent spouse. And it really helps to do the mental work to get there.
Okay, so do you mostly work with women?
I work with both. I work with men and women, but like a lot of my clients are women, but I do work with a lot of men as well.
Okay, what have you been seeing so far? What are the main struggles people are having?
So the main struggle is people are using their past to confirm their future. And what I mean by that is when they have a bad experience, they use those experiences to define who they are, or to define them as like the next experience is going to happen the same way. Right. So it's like, oh, well, I had this time where this person kind of rejected me for this, and therefore that means the next person's also going to reject me because of this. And this is all happening subconsciously. It's not even happening consciously sometimes, right? And even, or as an example, if I'm a woman, and my thought is, every time I talk to a man, I'm not really attracted to them, or it's not going to work. So the next time they talk to someone, they immediately dismiss right away, and it just, they're constantly feeling like it's never going to work. So what the problem is when we're using the past thoughts to define our future, it's very hard to find the thing that you're looking for, because cognitive bias, the brain will always look for what's familiar and what you're used to. And so that's why people stay stuck in the same problem, because their brain is kind of sabotaging every time a new person comes up.
Okay, so what do you do in that case? You reprogram the brain, or what exactly?
So the first step is more of awareness of what are the specific thoughts and patterns that are coming up for you that cause you to act and feel a certain way. Because if there's no awareness, then you're just going to think it's, it's the other person's fault. They're going to think, oh, like there's not enough men, or not enough women, or not enough good men, not enough good women. And so when we don't take a step back and realize, oh wait, no, actually it's me, I'm the one that's feeling this way, and this is why I keep repeating the same patterns, and this is why I keep getting the same results, then you feel a lot more empowered, because you realize, oh, it's something I can fix. I realize I'm thinking this way because of whatever, my childhood, my past experience. Now, let's say every time I get rejected and I feel, I don't tell myself the story, I'm not good enough. I tell myself, oh, they're just not my person. So these small little reframes help you and empower you to become the version of you that eventually, when Allah does send you, and you do meet your person, it's so much more easier, it's more efficient and less stressful.
The common red flags that people are often ignoring during the talking stage. And I think you kind of just answered that by saying it's a lot of it's subconscious and previous experiences. Am I correct?
Yes, and I also want to add, when you're coming from a more desperate feeling, when it feels like I need to get married, the brain will sometimes, if you're coming from a more anxious attachment style, and you feel more anxious about things, it will tend to avoid red flags or problems because it's just trying to get married. It just wants to make it work. Right. So sometimes it's hard to kind of directly see red flags when you're coming from that space. So for me directly, when I'm asked this question, I don't necessarily like list out all the red flags because that is something, honestly, if you just Google, there's a bunch of lists of red flags. However, the mindset, the way you're coming into it, that dictates whether something's a red flag or not. Okay. So if you're coming from a very empowered state and you see something that comes up that, is potentially a problem, you take the time to sit and understand, okay, is this something that really does affect me in my marriage, or is this something that is just a trigger from my past? Is this something that I'm willing to tolerate? And you have the capacity to kind of question and understand. However, if you're coming from a more desperate, disempowered state, the way you're going to come at it is like, well, I mean, he just disrespected me, and I think I don't want to rock the boat too much because I want this to work. So let me just like move forward and not really question it, right? So the communication is much less. You're not as empowered. You don't actually speak up and say what you want. What happens with time? You build up resentment, and when really the truth is you didn't want to question it and speak up and be yourself because you didn't want to rock the boat or ruin it because you just wanted to be married because you're coming from a desperate place.
Right.
Right.
So desperation is guiding the process instead.
Right. And this is more on a spectrum. I'm not saying everyone is like this or this. It varies with everyone. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that's not me, there could be parts of you that has that. And so that's kind of like my job as a coach, is to help you uncover that and to rewire that to feel more empowered, to feel more confident in your process so that you do feel safe to speak up when you need to.
So what you said about repeating past mistakes and being stuck in patterns, this kind of answers a question we had for you, which is like, what would you say to someone who's been looking for a long time? Like we had a guest on the show. She's a client of ours and she shared her story. She's been looking for over 20 years. And they're like, well, in her case, she knew what she was doing wrong. But other people, they're like, I tried everything. I worked on myself. I don't know. Why isn't it not happening? Why can't I find the right person? So what would you say to them?
Yes. So this process, and the way I teach things is there's three parts to this. There's the spiritual part, there's your thoughts and your self-concept and your identity, and then there's your thoughts about the opposite gender and what's possible for you. And if one of these is off, it's going to be very hard to find the spouse. So someone usually tells me, I've spent years working on myself and I'm years looking. And if I really look into how they're thinking, the thoughts in their mind is, well, there is no man that wants me, or there is no man that, I can't find a man that would ever like want someone like me, or there are no good men, or something like that. So even tiny thoughts like that, even if it feels true and believable, it takes away the conviction that you have that it is going to work for you. And when you don't have conviction, your du'as will feel very like watered down. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, Ya Allah, I've been trying for 20 years. Like, listen to my tone, right? I've been trying for 20 years and I've been doing all the things and nothing is working. And there's no man out there for me. And so what happens? Like you don't even believe it's going to happen for you. So you trust more in what you think is true, more than what Allah can do for you.
I see.
Right.
Wow.
So when you do that, it's your dua has become very like, Ya Allah, like I want it to happen, but subconsciously you don't think it's actually going to happen because you know that there's no man out there for you because you're believing it. You're believing it already, right? So that
SubhanAllah.
projecting that already into you're feeding that into your dua, and Allah's like, well, you already made a decision that it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, it almost feels like in your dua you're putting an expectation. Allah is saying you should have done this for me by now because I've done everything right, but you haven't. That's what it almost feels like.
But yeah, maybe that's it.
Right?
That's what's part of it too. But also, I'm talking more about the conviction, because one of the
Yeah.
prerequisites of an answered dua is the conviction that Allah can do anything. But on a mental level, when we have thoughts that like prevent it from feeling like Allah can do anything, our du'as don't feel that much conviction. And I am not saying like, oh, like, there's so many healthy, amazing men out there and all this. Like, you don't have to believe that. But what I am saying is, Ya Allah, even with the evidence I see in front of me, I don't care what I see. I know that you can make anything possible. And trust, Ya
Subhanallah.
Allah, I only care about your acceptance and what you want from me, and I don't care about anything else. That level of conviction, that's another level, right? That's the goal. That's why we're here. That's why we're being tested to get to that level. And that's why when I see people kind of complaining about how like it's been 20 years, been this, been that, there is always a missing piece. And I usually tell within the first conversation, they're stuck in the identity of things don't work out for me. Things don't ever work out for me. And that's where people, this is a very long topic, but if for people really wanting more like details on this and understanding this more in a deeper level, I have a course called The Inner Shift that really explains this more in detail, that can help if you want to check that out.
Inshallah, we will ask you towards the end of the episode to share your classes and contact information, of course. But this reminds me, when I was making dua for a spouse, like I mentioned it even before in another episode, I was so specific with my dua. Like it was like ordering a burger. Like I knew I could speak to Allah directly. He's not going to judge me. And I was very specific with my dua. And subhanAllah, it got answered. Like every box was checked, subhanAllah. But these things, like you would feel so awkward mentioning them in front of your friend or your sister. And they're like, just ask Allah for a good spouse. And that's it, right? Subhanallah.
Yeah.
So you spoke of red flags. What about green flags?
Yeah, I mean, when you are operating from the best version of yourself, when you're being the most authentic version of you, that is the best screening tool, because you immediately see when someone is, you notice, like, you don't tolerate disrespect, first of all, but you notice, when someone's respecting you, you notice the way they talk, their character, the way they bring up conflict, the way they navigate conflict, the way they respond to you. All of this stuff matters, right? And I always like to say, right, it's good to also do your little bit of research of like what are some good, positive, healthy traits of a relationship, and adding that to your wish list, adding that to your dua list. Like, Allah, I want someone who is helps me feel understood and heard and listens to me and is good at problem solving and is good at this and is good at that, and all of that is kind of a list of green flags, right? And I always like to, before I was married, I would look at couples that I admired and I would take note of the things that I liked about them, to kind of, I want this in my own marriage. And so things like that, you'd have to come up with your own list of green flags that you're looking for.
Okay. So how can you differentiate between like somebody who has self-empowerment and they're confident and they know that they deserve someone good, and between no one's good enough, no one is good enough for me, I have to be earned, I'm a princess, I don't know, because it's a thin line, right?
Right. And that is actually a protective mechanism that people use when they say, I don't need anyone, I'm a princess, like they have to earn me. It's like stuff like that. Now, there's, as a woman, you do see yourself as like, I am a catch, but also there's humility, right? Like, I'm a human being, that I am a worthy woman. That's a human being that any man would be lucky to have, right? But however, there's humility. Like, there's like, I'm a human being and I'm looking for another human being. But when people are more coming from fear, it can often show up as more of entitlement. And I know, I'm pretty sure they're not doing that intentionally. They're doing it more out of protective mechanism, and they're not necessarily aware of it. They think that's what they're taught. They think that's what will protect them from someone hurting their feelings. Like, you need to earn my love and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I would guess, right, if someone's saying that, that's how their childhood was. Like, they needed to earn the love, and now it's showing up in their relationships. And so all of that is reflective on when the way you grew up will often reflect in your relationships. And it's a beautiful thing. I think it's when it uncovers all the triggers you have. But yeah, so the difference between arrogance and confidence is really your question. And the difference is, Confidence is I'm amazing and I know other humans are amazing too. I'm not better than anyone. I know I'm amazing and you're amazing too. Arrogance is I'm amazing and everyone else is below me. So that's really that's simple as I can answer it. That's when you feel the difference. Confidence just feels good. It feels like I see everyone as Allah's creation. Like no one is worse or better than me. We're all the same. We're all like, so that's confidence.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to green flags earlier. Sometimes what happens is, like, Alhamdulillah, Hiba and I, just spoke for barely a month and a half, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna get our nikah done." We knew, but what happens to some people is that they see all the green flags and they're answering all the questions, and the pace starts to pick up, and then then it gets scary, and you think, "No way, this person is just." Can't be this compatible with me. I got to slow it down a bit. I got to pump the brakes, right? And we actually saw this a little bit on the Muslim Matchmaker too, about pace and slowing it down. So it becomes a tricky thing where, okay, green flags are great. This person is compatible, but then we have to talk about pace. And so what would you say to somebody who's kind of in that scary situation?
Yeah, so infatuation, when it takes over, it's very hard to kind of manage it. So usually when someone's going at a really fast pace, they're infatuated and it's a little bit driven from anxiety of like, I don't want this to end. Like if it
Mm-hmm.
ends, I'm like, that means it's another failure and I don't want it to end. So how does that show up? It's like usually like always talking and making sure they're doing it right so that the conversation doesn't end. So there's very little room for or tolerance for any silence or discomfort or just like space. And so the strategies here, and it is more of a strategy, is you have to communicate that. You have to communicate in the beginning, hey, I feel like we're going a little too fast. I would like if we took it a little slower just so I can, take the time to process things and live my own life. I don't want to like completely disconnect from my life and focus on you. And it helps to it helps to just kind of build up strategies to protect your own life. So what I mean by that is you only set certain times to talk to them throughout the day. And after that, you plan like something to do, like going out with your friends or going to the masjid or something, right? So that you have a hard stop and you don't spend the rest of your night talking to them or, not talking to them at night. I had a very strict rule on this, right? Like bedtime is bedtime. There's no exceptions here. Like you go to bed, you can talk tomorrow. You don't have to talk at night even though it's tempting, but like you have to put up rules for yourself so that you don't fall into that, because again, infatuation will lead to a really fast pace and things crash right away. So you don't have to be
Right.
afraid of it. It's normal, but it's more of like setting up guardrails for yourself so that you can
That's
protect yourself.
important.
Okay. Speaking of Muslim Matchmaker, so the last episode before Ramadan, we critiqued this show. We had a lot to share. And I just would like
Yeah.
to know your input, your thoughts on the show, or not just the show as entertainment, but on the whole process of the matching, how it's done, the guidance, the conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it because my clients were telling me to watch it, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll watch it. And it was just interesting to see, the I liked seeing the different examples. I liked seeing like how things were talked about and stuff. And I think though I like to use some of these examples as like to show my clients like, look, this is what anxious avoidant attachment looks like. This is what this attachment looks like. So that's kind of where my thoughts were. I was like, it's a starting off show. It's like the beginning of inshallah many shows of that will help and show people that they're not alone in the matchmaking process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, you spoke of attachment styles. Tell us a little bit about that. How does that uh, like present itself when people are trying to get to know each other?
Yeah, so a summary of attachment styles. There's a theory that a psychologist came up with that the way you grew up as a baby and as a child, your attachment to your parents it shows up in your adulthood.
Mhm.
So if you didn't get that much attention or you didn't get the attention you need, maybe the baby starts getting more of like it avoids even speaking up anymore because it's like, what's the point? So how it shows up in your adult life is it avoids any sort of intimacy conversations or anything opening up or anything hard, because it doesn't want to get close to anyone, because it doesn't want to risk rejection. It doesn't want to risk disappointment. Okay, so that's avoidant attachment. Anxious attachment is, I need someone to be with me. Um, I need closeness. I need to always be reassured. I need this. I need that. So that's more of the anxious attachment side, and it's a spectrum, so it varies from one side to the other, and it's the beauty of knowing what your style is you can catch when you can understand your own behavior when it comes to relationship, and it's really helpful in terms of marriage, like understanding your how it shows up in your marriage. Because me personally, I used to be much more on the avoidant side, but I also still notice it coming up in my marriage. Like, I notice my habits coming up. Like, for example, if we argue or something happens, I tend to withdraw and just not want to talk about anything, and just go to my room. But it's just good to know, right? It's good to know that those habits come up, and that way I have a way of managing it when I do notice myself getting triggered. So I talk about attachment style a lot because uh, the way you feel as you're getting to know someone, all of that is going to get triggered, and it usually happens in romantic relationships. Sometimes it happens in friendships and stuff like that, but um, it just helps to know so that you can either manage it or avoid it. And so that's usually what blocks connection from actually happening, and it sabotages people from actually getting married.
Okay, I take it avoidance and what's the other one? Anxious. They
Yes.
don't go well together.
So surprisingly, that's the most common dynamic,
Oh,
because right, yeah, it is. It's kind of like the anxious always needs the avoidant, and the avoidant kind of runs away from it. So like the unhealthy kind of dynamic is when that happens. But when you come together in a more secure place, that's what. So typically, like stereotypically, the man is usually more avoidant than the woman, but also obviously it's not a general rule. Um, but yeah, it's very common, but it's just more about learning how to navigate it, and it's not a problem. It's more about learning how to manage it together as a couple.
okay. First impressions. How can somebody leave a good first impression when they're meeting someone, whether it's like at a matrimonial event or meeting virtually or through a friend or whatever?
Yeah. So the first thing is, first of all, ya Allah, make the intention. Ya Allah, I just want to meet the person that's meant for me, and allow me to leave a good impression on that person.
Mhm.
Okay? Intention always matters. So how to leave a good impression is, are you operating from the authentic, real version of you? The real version of you will show up, and sometimes she's nervous, sometimes he's nervous, but it's okay. He's here to get to know each other as human beings. So you put your your authentic, as in, like, okay, I know I'm a good spouse. I know I could find the spouse that's meant for me here. So let me see, is this the person that I want to be with? And you talk to them, and you talk to them as a normal human being, and you don't, you get to know them more as a friend, and like the intention is more of like, let me see if I could be friends with them, as in, I'm not saying like be friends with them, but like for the intention of like, let me see if this is someone I can be with, so that we can be married, inshallah.
Mhm.
And that all of that, like the reframing of that, helps you come into a much more calmer approach. But I wouldn't worry too much about, like, what do people think of me, what's my first impression. It's more about, um, I'm going to operate from the best version of me. I'm going to operate from the most authentic version of me. And if they like me, great. And if they don't like me, I'm going to try my best to like not take that personally. And like, it's okay that some people won't like me.
Okay. We spoke about, I mentioned matrimonial events. So you're probably aware of the way matrimonial events happen in most places. It's just a speed dating. You're sitting on a table with this person for 3 5 minutes, then you're rotating. So it is an option out there. It's not the best option, but it is an option out there. If somebody wants to try it out, try this option out. What would you suggest the best way to make the most out of it? Like, it's not a perfect situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's you. when you're coming from a place of, I wonder if my spouse is here. I wonder, like, yeah, and I wonder if the person that Allah wrote for me is in this room. You come at it from very a curious perspective.
Mhm.
What I usually see is women or men already thinking ahead of time, this is not going to work, this is going to suck, this is going to be terrible. And obviously you're not going to show up, but you're not going to show up authentically. No one's going to, your energy is going to be just the same as everyone else.
Right.
But what would make you stand out is if you see it as an opportunity, as an adventure, to be like, oh, I wonder how I can have fun while I'm here, right? Have fun, and as in like a, not make it like this dreaded, oh my God, I have to go through this, but more of like, I wonder if I would meet my husband. Like maybe this could be maybe this could be it. And if it doesn't happen, alhamdulillah. If it happens, alhamdulillah. It's not. It's very like neutral. It's light. It's not this heavy thing.
If somebody suspects they are being strung along, what are some concrete signs to look for?
Well, first of all, make sure both of you are on the same timeline, on the same page, right? So, the way I teach things is like make sure you're both discussing, hey, let's talk seriously for like at least 90 days and make a decision by the end of 90 days so that we either agree to move forward or not. And, I want to make sure we're not wasting each other's time. And I really respect your time. You respect my time. And, you have that conversation. And you can tell, like, if someone's like, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I want to take longer, or this, it's like, okay, I mean, why do you need to take longer? Oh, because I'm not sure, I'm not that, and then you can tell kind of with time as you develop your emotional intelligence and stuff like that, is like, oh wait, like they're kind of stringing me, like they're not really. And also another thing, humans don't intentionally try to string other people along. It's not like they intentionally have a negative intention. It's more about they're not aware why they're doing it. There maybe let's say if it's a man stringing along a woman, it's more about he doesn't know what he wants, and he's kind of confused maybe sometimes. So it just helps to have that conversation to make sure you're both on the same page. And when the man clearly says, I don't know, and I don't think it's going to happen within the next year or whatever, they're like, it's your job as a woman to end it. It's your responsibility to make sure you don't let yourself get strung along.
Mm.
But what happens is if a woman is desperate or she needs to make this work, she won't see those signs and she won't have that conversation. And she'll try to force him to make it work. And that's when things get too messy and you literally get strung along.
Yeah. Or if she's already emotionally attached to him, it becomes difficult. Yeah.
Right, like what I'm saying, like you need this to work because I already like him and this has to work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Or sometimes it happens because there's a lot of fear associated with it too. Like, okay, this person is serious. Then you start to get nervous and you think, okay, now I have to figure out X, Y, Z. I have to figure out what am I going to tell my parents? How am I going to figure out living arrangements? There's so much to figure out. And then your fear starts to kick in.
Yeah. And a lot of guys have fear of commitment as well. Maybe because of the many bad experiences they hear around them. My friend got divorced and she cleaned him out or something like that. So a lot of guys, like, they have the intention of getting married. They have good intentions, but they get scared and run away.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's also women who are like this too. This goes back to the avoidant attachment style, which is afraid of commitment because it's such a big, heavy thing to them because they're afraid of, the potential, like, what if we get divorced? What if this never actually works out? What if all this comes up? And what if I fail? And what if all of the fears come up, right?
Yeah.
And to process that is for an avoidant is to learn, like, what are you actually afraid of, and talking yourself through it. Talking yourself through, okay, if this problem comes up, this is what I'm going to do to protect myself, to protect the person. Like, I'll figure it out and I'll do what it takes to heal from my past so that I don't bring that into my marriage. And I know I'm not going to be perfect and it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And I know I will, like, I'll do my best to commit to what I can.
Mm-hmm.
And some fears will come up and some circumstances will come up, but that's meant to train you to become the person that you need to be.
Okay. What would you say to someone who has maybe negative view on coaching? They're like, no, I can figure it out, but they're clearly struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, like, coaching always speeds up things, right? It gets you there faster because you have a person pointing out your blind spots.
Mhm.
And some people choose not to because they think either they're ashamed of getting help, or it's like, I don't want to spend money because, like, why would I do that when I can figure it out myself?
Mhm.
And that's a choice, right? That some people, I've seen people spend years and years and years trying to figure it out on their own, when if they were to have one session with me, I'd be like, yeah, this is the problem. And like they save themselves like years, right? And they're like, why didn't I find you earlier? Right. And it's like, yeah, well, you have to be open to coaching, and it takes some humility to be like, I need help.
Right.
This is hard.
Right.
But it's not a shameful thing. Like, I to this day, I have a coach, and I will always have a coach, because it really helps to check out my blind spots and things in areas that I don't see. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. And the more I work with a coach and have a whole nother brain looking at my brain, it just elevates and evolves me, and I see things much differently and more clear. And if I didn't have that, I'd just be stuck in my own thoughts. And you can't solve a problem with the brain that created it. This is the quote from Einstein, right? You can't solve a problem with the mind that created it. So if your mind is the problem, you can't solve that. You need an outsider to kind of help you look at it sometimes.
Makes
And
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out
So
of, actually, just had a question. Out of curiosity, how often do you get males seeking out your professional help?
I always have, like, right now I have about trying to count, 3, 4, or 5 male clients out of
Really? Okay.
25. Yeah.
okay.
So
Okay. It's still a
yeah,
small number out of 25, but that's still good to
yeah.
know that
I'm
males.
grateful. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
incredible humans. Alhamdulillah, they're doing their best to get the help they need. But for sure, there are plenty of men out there who do look for help, who do try to. They
Mm.
just need to push every now and then.
Yeah.
And we need to, help men feel safer to actually get the help they need, and not judge them and not make them feel like belittled for that. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what we need to do.
Okay, take us through it a little bit. Take us through what you do exactly. So let's say I've been struggling. I can't find the right person. I've been struggling for 7 years and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I come to you. What would you do?
Yeah, so my first approach is I see what you've been believing, like, as an identity wise. What's your identity? An identity is the set of thoughts that you've been believing about who you are. Okay, as an example, I'm someone who struggled for the past 10 years with marriage. So what does that mean as an identity? It means I'm someone who struggles with relationships. Someone who really struggles. And what happens is, when you believe that, the brain will keep operating from that belief. So I'm someone who struggles. Therefore, everything you do will feel like a struggle. It will feel like, um, I can't figure it out. I can't do this. I can't do that. So what I do is I help them come from a more neutral perspective, right? We're just learning a brand new skill. We don't need to bring the past with us. We're learning how I'm learning the skill of how to be in a healthy relationship, instead of believing I struggle with relationships, because
Oh,
that thought doesn't serve you. That
Hmm.
thought just reiterates the same negative thoughts over and over again. That's one of the core beliefs, right? And this is really deep work, right? I feel like some people listening feel like, what the heck is this? But, like, when you're operating from this belief, all the other negative thoughts stem from that.
Hmm.
So I always look for the core belief, and then whatever stems from that, and we knock it down like dominoes with every session. And at the end, they feel a lot more confident about themselves, first and foremost. And when you're more confident about yourself, you're more flexible about what you're looking for and what you want. You're not as rigid in the criteria that you're looking for, because you realize you're confident you can handle any problem that comes up.
okay. Sounds like
Okay.
intense work.
It
Yeah.
is, it's very intense, but it's very transformational. It evolves. People don't recognize themselves after 6 months. So
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Can you
Wow.
yeah.
share some stories? Some, of course, keeping it private, but like some transformations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had, like, one person that's coming to mind. I think she's in her 40s, something like that. But I think 39 now I think about it. But she came to me very anxious, right? Every time she would text someone, a lot of anxiety comes up. Are they going to text me back? Do they like me enough? Do they this? This is probably not going to work out. And what happens is she sabotages it when the next time she talks to him, she's talking from anxiety, like, why didn't you answer me? Why did this? And not even directly saying it, but even her energy was just off every time. Okay, her demeanor was not very confident.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously, if a man sees this, he's not going to be like, "Wow, what is this?" He's going to leave because it's not it's not something you want to be with.
Mm-hmm.
So the transformation is when we really focused on her self concept, the way she saw herself, the way she handles rejection, the way, like, what does it mean when someone doesn't text you back? It just means nothing. It just means that it doesn't, we don't need to make it a bigger thing about you and all of that. And we work on the ego. We work on, the ego is one of the biggest things, right? Is like feeling very ashamed about yourself. And ego comes in different forms. It comes from like, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? And on the other end of the spectrum, like, very prideful as well. So it's a lot of ego work. And when you do that, at the end, the transformation was every time she talked to a potential, she just felt so comfortable. Like, alhamdulillah, like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, who cares?
Yeah.
She never thought she would be someone at that point. And now, alhamdulillah, she's talking to potential. She's much more like one of them is kind of like moving along, alhamdulillah. And it's just, it feels much more relaxing, right? We don't need to stress out about it. We don't need to panic. It's just Allah's taking. The tawakkul is so much more higher than the emotions. And the emotions is just like, whatever. It's just there every now and then I get a fear. But it's more the solid baseline is, I know Allah has a person written for me. And all I have to do is keep showing up with authentically in myself and do my part, and inshallah it'll work. So that's the work, right? It's not just about marriage. And to me, my work is never just about marriage. It's about, this is the skill that we're trying to become, the prophetic. We're trying to become like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what does that mean? It means doing the work on your ego, doing the work on your character to become someone who doesn't get fazed by things like this, which leads to a very fulfilling marriage, which helps you become just stronger in who you are. So,
wow. Yeah. It literally does sound like you're just rewiring people's brains, which is amazing. Yeah. It's so cool.
It's amazing that people are open to this.
Oh, of course. There's so many women that like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to change?
Because we're naturally gonna resist change. Change is scary, right?
Yeah, but if it's a change that will serve you to feel better, your brain will be more motivated, right? It's not like change like, it's not like change like, oh, there's no outcome. Like, it's going to make you feel better.
Right, right.
Plus, I feel like the stigma behind mental health is changing. The general attitude, people are becoming more accepting and open to it. Yeah.
One last piece of advice, a practical advice you can give someone who's looking, who's struggling, and maybe on the brink of giving up.
Yes. First of all, I do recommend getting the help you need. Don't try to do this alone. Because doing it alone will only perpetuate those same exact thoughts. And I've seen people try to do it alone. They just end up exactly where they were at the beginning. So you could read all the self-help books and do all of that, but that doesn't really change unless you have someone to actually point out exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, like the don't giving up part, sometimes Allah will put you in phases where you do feel hopeless, and those are the times where you call out to Allah, Ya Allah, I need your help. And I don't like feeling hopeless, Ya Allah, and I don't like feeling broken, and I don't like feeling worthless, but help me heal those feelings, help me heal those emotions so that I can become closer to you. And to redirect your thoughts and your dua, not to a place of like, Ya Allah, I want to get married. Ya Allah, I want to heal the parts of me that are so wounded that I think a man will help fix it. It's not true. Marriage will not fix your problems. I think marriage actually emphasizes whatever problems you have, it makes it times 10. It just shows up extremely more in a marriage because all of it's more triggered. But if you want sakina in your marriage, you got to be the source of sakina for yourself. How are you going to bring sakina and expect the other person to do it for you if you don't feel sakina in yourself? So we pray in a way like, Ya Allah, I want marriage because I want to feel sakina, but Ya Allah, give me what I need. And when I say give me what I need, like, give me the emotion, the emotional stability that I need, the ability to not lose hope in you, Ya Allah, to not lose hope in and all these things that's on my mind, and to become stronger in who I am and all of this. And I promise you, when you become that version of you that you've always wanted to be, finding a spouse is very easy. But what we get caught up in is the drama and the emotions of how hard it is, and it's I'm never gonna find it and all of that. And why are we trying to find a spouse in the first place? Because we want to, we want to enjoy it, we want to feel good, but you're ruining your own uh, process in the meantime by feeling this way, by feeling like so hopeless and like really down about it. So it doesn't serve you in the long term, or in the for your dunya or your akhirah either. So all I'd like to say is just make dua. Ya Allah, make I want Allah to be the center of my world, not marriage. I want to be so connected to you, Ya Allah, that I don't care about anything else, and that I do things that please you, Ya Allah, and only send me things that are pleasing to you, Ya Allah. So when you do focus on that and you work on, Ya Allah, give me the skills to be in a healthy, beautiful marriage. Give me the skills to learn how to navigate my triggers. Give me this, all that, and that will help a lot, inshallah. When you ask from the source of the one who can help you.
I love this. Instead of focusing on the problem, we direct our dua and our energy on what can we do to become better and to become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I love it. It's a gem. Thank you. Okay. Anyone who is interested in reaching out, working with you, how can they reach you, and what services exactly do you offer?
Yeah, so I do have a public YouTube page. There's so many things to learn on that. So if you just start there, just to find out more about me, see if the way I talk, if it clicks with you, then if it resonates with you, then we go to the deeper work, which is, if you go on my website, it's lamaaboubakr.com. It's my full name, LamaAboubakr.com. There's the Inner Shift course, which is the course that I kind of teach to take things to a deeper level. And then the next step, if you can always book a one-off session with me to get started, and I offer different types of sessions to a variety of packages to kind of look into. But I would start there, and my Instagram is Lama Aboubakr, and same, you can check me out there as well, and you can message me if you have any questions on ways to work with me.
Inshallah, we will link all these sources in the description of this episode. Thank you so much for your insight. For the hope, I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful for single people out there. Thank you for your time, and thank you to our beautiful listeners. We will see you, inshallah, in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, assalamu alaikum.